Today's story, The Betrayal, shows how the same strength that carries a firefighter into burning buildings helped him save his children from a different kind of fire, their mother's deception. A special thank you to our subscribers who continue to support stories of survival and justice. Get comfortable, and let's dive into this compelling narrative. The late afternoon sunlight filtered through the living room windows of the Forbes residence, casting long shadows across Val Forbes' collection of service medals and firefighting memorabilia. At 42, Val had earned every accolade through years of running into burning buildings while others ran out. His broad shoulders and steady hands had carried countless lives to safety, but nothing in his 15 years of emergency response had prepared him for what was about to unfold in his own home. Emma Forbes stood in the center of the room, her debate team captain pin glinting on her varsity jacket. Her hands trembled as she held out her phone, an unusual sight for a girl who could command attention during high-stakes competitions without a single nervous tick. "Dad," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to show you something, but—" She swallowed hard, gathering the same courage she'd inherited from him. "Mom's at the beach resort with Uncle Michael. They're doing things I can't explain. I recorded everything." Val set down his coffee mug, the porcelain making a sharp click against the hardwood coffee table. "Show me," he said as firefighters training kicking and assessed the situation, gather information, maintain control. The video played with crystal clarity. Marina Forbes, his wife of 15 years, lounged by the Azure Bay Resort's infinity pool, the same pool where Val had gotten down on one knee and promised her forever. But instead of the wedding ring he'd placed on her finger that day, she wore nothing but a barely there bikini and a smile meant for someone else. That someone else was Michael Douglas, Val's best friend since their academy days, his best man, godfather to Lucas. "When did you take this?" Val asked, his voice steady despite the rage building in his chest. "3 days ago," Emma replied, her fingers swiping through multiple videos. "Mom said she was at a women's wellness retreat, but Sophie overheard her on the phone with Uncle Michael last week. I borrowed your old GoPro and asked Kevin from the debate team to drive me there." The timestamp showed multiple encounters. 2:15 p.m. by the pool, 7:30 p.m. at the resort's signature restaurant, 11:45 p.m. entering the same hotel room. Each video was methodically labeled and categorized Emma's debate organization skills, put to devastating use. A soft shuffle from the doorway drew their attention. Lucas Forbes stood there, his 13-year-old frame already showing signs of the same height that made Val an imposing figure at the firehouse. Behind him, Sophie clutched his hand, her ballet shoes hanging from her other arm. "We didn't want to tell you," Lucas said, his voice cracking. "But Mom's been lying a lot." He guided Sophie forward, who looked up at her father with eyes too knowing for her 11 years. "She told Sophie you were too busy to come to her recital last week," Lucas continued, his free hand clenching into a fist. "But I saw her delete your texts about coming. She's been doing it for months." Val knelt down to Sophie's level, noting how she still wore her hair in the same neat bun from dance practice. "Princess, is this true?" Sophie nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I saw Mom delete something from your phone when you were in the shower last month. She does it whenever you leave your phone charging in the kitchen." She pulled a crumpled program from her dance bag. "This is from last week's show. Mom sat with Uncle Michael instead of saving a seat for you. She told Mrs. Patterson that you care more about your job than watching me dance." Emma stepped forward, her debate captain confidence returning. "Dad, there's more. I've been taking screenshots for weeks." She pulled up a messaging app, revealing conversations between Marina and Michael. Val read through them, his jaw tightening with each swipe. "Marina, Val's pulling another 24-hour shift. Poor dedicated hero, eye roll emoji. Michael, your firefighter routine must be getting old. All that nobility vomiting emoji. Marina, please. He loves playing the hero more than being a husband. Makes things easier for us. Michael, speaking of easier, Rachel's got that conference next week. Marina, and I've got my wellness retreat all booked." Val never questions anything about self-care. "There's worse stuff," Emma said quietly. "They've been planning something." She pulled up another conversation, this one making Val's blood run cold. Marina, talk to Janet from family court. She says Val's job is our golden ticket. Michael? Marina, what judge would give primary custody to someone who runs into burning buildings for a living? Especially when there's a safer option available, winking emoji. Michael, you're brilliant, babe. And once the custody's settled, Marina, we can stop pretending. I'm so tired of playing the supportive firefighter's wife. The conversation continued with detailed plans to document every call, every shift, every missed event, regardless of whether Marina had actually informed Val about them or not. She's been keeping a log, Lucas added, pulling out his tablet. I found it when I was helping her with her iPad last week. She's documenting everything out of context, making it look like you're choosing work over us. But I've been keeping my own records. Lucas pulled up a spreadsheet that would have made his computer science teacher proud. Every time Marina had changed dates, deleted messages, or created conflicts, he noted it. Times, dates, screenshots, all meticulously cataloged. I wrote a simple program, he explained, his voice gaining confidence as he moved into familiar territory. It backs up all of Mom's deletions to my private cloud. She doesn't know I cloned her phone weeks ago. Val looked at his children, Emma with her debater's precision, Lucas with his programmer's thoroughness, and Sophie with her dancer's discipline. They'd seen through their mother's deception and, instead of being broken by it, had armed themselves with truth. A notification sound broke the heavy silence. Emma glanced at her phone, then looked up with a mixture of hope and apprehension. It's Mrs. Douglas, she said. Rachel. She wants to talk to you, Dad. Val read the message. The kids reached out to me last week. We need to talk. Your children are smarter than our spouses gave them credit for. Call me. You contacted Rachel? Val asked, looking at his children. Emma straightened her shoulders. She's the best family court attorney in the state, Dad. And she deserved to know what Uncle Michael was doing, too. We made sure to get proof for her as well, Lucas added. The same day I got the footage of Mom and Uncle Michael, I saw him meeting with Dr. Richards at the pharmacy. He's been writing Mom prescriptions, anxiety medication, Sophie piped in, but Mom gives the pills to Aunt Carol next door. She said they're her marriage insurance. Val stood, his decision crystallizing. Years of emergency response had taught him that hesitation costs lives. The same principle applied here, but this time, he was saving his family from a different kind of fire. Emma, show me everything you've collected. Lucas, I need your backup data secured where your mother can't access it. Sophie, honey. He paused, seeing the worry in his youngest eyes. Would you show me all the performances I supposedly missed? I want to know everything. As his children gathered their evidence, Val sent a brief text to his crew chief. Horton, need to cash in some personal days. Family emergency. The response came immediately. Cabin's yours if you need it. Been through this myself. Keep the kids safe. Val looked at the family photos lining the walls, carefully crafted images of a perfect family. Marina had always been obsessed with appearances, positioning everyone just so, ensuring every shot told the story she wanted to tell. But she'd forgotten the first rule of any rescue operation. Truth shows up in the details. And the details were about to burn her perfectly crafted world to the ground. Dad! Emma's voice pulled him back to the present. What do we do now? Val looked at his children, really looked at them. Emma, with her mother's beauty, but none of her deception. Lucas, already showing the protective instincts that had drawn Val to firefighting. Sophie, whose quiet observation had caught what the adults had missed. Now, Val said, his voice carrying the same authority that had guided countless rookies through their first fires. We make sure the truth comes out. All of it. Your mother and Michael think they're going to use my job against me? Let's see how their plan holds up against what you've discovered. She's going to be really angry, Sophie whispered. Val knelt down again, looking his youngest in the eye. Sophie, remember what I told you about fire? She nodded. That it's not the flames that usually hurt people, it's the smoke they don't see coming. Exactly. Your mother's been filling this house with smoke for a long time, trying to blind us all. But you kids? He looked at each of them proudly. You saw through it. Now it's time to clear the air. A final text lit up Val's phone, Rachel Douglas confirming she was on her way with documents in hand. Val allowed himself a grim smile. Marina had always mocked his emergency response protocols, calling them paranoid and excessive. She was about to learn why preparation mattered in a crisis. Emma, call Rachel back. Tell her to bring everything she's got. Lucas, lock down any accounts or devices your mother might try to access. Sophie, he picked up her fallen ballet shoe. How about you show me that routine you've been practicing? I think we've all earned a moment of grace before the storm hits. As Sophie began to dance, her movements precise and powerful in the fading afternoon light, Val watched his children's strength shine through their pain. Marina had tried to use his profession against him, forgetting that firefighters don't just fight flames, they protect what matters most. And right now, what mattered most was standing right in front of him, showing more courage than their mother ever had. The sun set on the Forbes household, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. In the distance, Val could hear the familiar sound of fire engines returning to the station, his brothers and sisters in service, always ready to face whatever emergency arose. This time, the emergency was his own, but he wasn't facing it alone. He had his children's truth, Rachel's expertise, and years of handling crisis situations to guide him through. Marina Forbes had played with fire, forgetting that her husband knew exactly how quickly flames could spread. By the time she returned from her wellness retreat, she would find that her carefully constructed deception had been reduced to ashes, and from those ashes, her family would rise stronger, wiser, and free from her smoke and mirrors. Val checked his watch, the same one Marina had given him on their 10th anniversary, inscribed with, "To my hero." The irony wasn't lost on him. Heroes, after all, were supposed to save people. Sometimes that meant saving his children from their own mother's betrayal. Dad? Emma's voice cut through his thoughts. Rachel's 5 minutes out? Val nodded, watching Sophie finish her routine with a perfect pirouette. Then let's get ready. Your mother wants to play with fire? Let's show her who really knows how to handle the heat. The stage was set for the confrontation to come, but for now, Val Forbes stood surrounded by the only truth that mattered: 3 children who had chosen honesty over deception, courage over comfort, and their father's integrity over their mother's lies. Act 1 was ending, but the real story was just beginning to unfold. Rachel Douglas's BMW pulled into the Forbes driveway just as the sun began to set. Through the windshield, she observed the careful positioning of the family's vehicles. Val's truck parked to block Marina's usual spot, the garage door deliberately left open to show her car's absence. 15 years of family law had taught her to notice such details. She gathered her leather briefcase, packed with enough documentation to bury both her husband and Marina Forbes. The irony wasn't lost on her that Michael's betrayal would cost him everything he'd built: his medical practice, his reputation, and his carefully crafted image of suburban success. Val met her at the door, his firefighters bearing even more pronounced in crisis. "The kids are in the living room," he said, his voice controlled. "They've been organizing their evidence." Rachel nodded, noting how Val positioned himself, back straight, shoulders squared, a man preparing for battle rather than wallowing in betrayal. She'd seen too many clients crumble under similar circumstances. Val Forbes wasn't going to be one of them. "Before we go in," Rachel said, "you should know Michael's been writing prescriptions for more than just Marina. I've got proof of at least a dozen fraudulent scripts he's written in the last year alone." Val's jaw tightened, using his medical license to cover their affair, and leaving a paper trail that will end his career. Rachel allowed herself a grim smile. Men like Michael think they're too smart to get caught. They forget that arrogance leaves evidence. In the living room, Emma had transformed the coffee table into a war room. 3 laptops displayed different streams of evidence: text messages, photos, and what appeared to be a complex timeline. Lucas sat cross-legged on the floor, multiple hard drives connected to his tablet, while Sophie methodically arranged her collection of ballet programs. Mrs. Douglas, Emma stood, every inch her debate team captain self. "We've organized everything chronologically. Lucas created a secure cloud backup of all digital evidence, and I prepared a summary of Mom's attempts to alienate Dad from our activities." Rachel set her briefcase down, impressed. "Show me." For the next hour, the Forbes children presented their case with a precision that would have impressed any judge. Emma walked through screenshots showing Marina's systematic campaign to exclude Val from family events. Lucas demonstrated how his custom program had captured deleted messages and changed dates. Sophie's tear-stained ballet programs told their own story, each one marked with Marina's deliberate deceptions. Mom started sitting with Uncle Michael at my recitals 6 months ago, Sophie explained, her small voice steady. She always told people Dad was too busy with the fire department to come. But look, she pointed to a series of text messages Lucas had recovered. Dad asked about every performance. Mom just gave him wrong dates or deleted his messages. Val stood by the fireplace, absorbing each revelation without flinching. Rachel recognized the look. She'd worn it herself when first discovering Michael's betrayal. But where she'd felt blindsided, Val seemed to be calculating, assessing, planning. "We need to move fast," Rachel said, opening her briefcase. "Marina's using your profession against you in her custody strategy." Michael's been advising her. "I found notes in his office about painting firefighting as an unstable career for a single parent." "They're counting on fear," Val replied, his voice carrying the calm authority that had guided countless rescue operations. "Making the judge worry about a father who runs into burning buildings." "Exactly. But they've made mistakes. Big ones." Rachel spread documents across the table. "Marina's been documenting your absences without context, shifts, training, emergency calls. But she's also been lying about school events, recitals, parent conferences. Your children's evidence proves systematic parental alienation. We need to get the kids somewhere safe," Val said. "Marina returns tomorrow night." Rachel nodded. "Already arranged. Judge Harrison owes me a favor. I can have emergency temporary custody order signed tonight. But we need to move quickly." Val's phone buzzed. A text from his crew chief, Harley Horton, cabin stocked. "Keys under the blue flower pot. Take all the time you need, brother. Pack what matters," Val told his children. "Only what you can't replace." The kids moved with quiet efficiency. Emma gathered her debate team trophies, each one representing hours of practice Marina had dismissed as wasteful. Lucas carefully packed his coding equipment, the tools he'd used to expose his mother's deceptions. Sophie disappeared upstairs, returning with her ballet shoes and a small music box Val had given her for her 10th birthday. "Mom tried to throw this away last month," Sophie said quietly. "Said I was too old for music boxes. I found it in the garbage and hid it under my bed." Val knelt beside his youngest, noting how she clutched the music box, a tangible piece of their connection Marina had tried to sever. "No one's throwing away anything that matters to you again, princess." Rachel watched the scene while preparing custody documents. In 15 years of family law, she'd seen countless parents use their children as weapons. Marina Forbes had tried to use her children as tools against their father. Instead, she'd armed them with truth. "Val," Rachel called, "we need to discuss assets. Marina's been planning this for months. She'll try to drain accounts as soon as she realizes what's happening." For the next 2 hours, they executed a meticulous plan. Val transferred funds to secure accounts, ensuring his children's futures. Rachel prepared custody documents, her years of experience evident in every carefully worded clause. The children continued gathering evidence. Emma's debate training showing in her organized timelines. Lucas's technical skills securing their digital proof. Sophie's quiet observations filling crucial gaps. "They'll try to paint me as unstable," Val said, reviewing the custody papers. "A firefighter abandoning his family in the night. Let them try." Rachel's smile was sharp. "Your crew chiefs already provided a statement about your exemplary service record. The kids' evidence proves Marina's systematic deception. And Michael's prescription fraud?" She tapped a thick folder. "The medical board will be very interested in that." A small sound drew their attention. Sophie stood in the kitchen doorway, something glinting in her hand. "Mom's wedding ring," she said softly. "It was by the sink. She hasn't worn it in months." Sophie's voice trembled slightly. "I thought she was just doing dishes, but she was already letting go," Emma finished, putting an arm around her sister. Lucas looked up from his tablet. "All the evidence is backed up to secure servers. Mom can't delete anything now." Rachel watched the Forbes children, Emma's protective stance, Lucas's quiet determination, Sophie's resilience. Marina and Michael had dismissed these kids as pawns in their game. They'd never considered that children see everything, understand more than adults suspect, and know the difference between truth and carefully crafted lies. Your mother will try to paint your father as the villain, Rachel told them directly. She'll claim he turned you against her, that he's poisoned your minds. Are you ready for that? The children exchanged glances before answering in unison. We know the truth. Val checked his watch, the same one that had timed countless rescues. This rescue, though, wasn't from flames or smoke. It was from the slow poison of betrayal, from a fire that had been smoldering in his own home while Marina played with matches. It's time, he said, his voice carrying the same authority that had led men into burning buildings. But this time, he was leading his children out of a different kind of danger. As they prepared to leave for Harley's cabin, Rachel watched Val Forbes, not broken by betrayal but strengthened by it. Not defeated by deception, but determined to protect what mattered most. Marina had mistaken his dedication for weakness, his service for vulnerability. She was about to learn that the same strength that carried him into burning buildings would now carry his children to safety. The night deepened around the Forbes household, hiding the silent efficiency of their preparation. In her beach resort room, Marina Forbes slept beside Michael Douglas, unaware that her carefully constructed lies were about to collapse. She played with fire, forgetting that her husband had spent his life mastering it. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but tonight, under Rachel's legal expertise and Val's steady guidance, 3 children chose truth over deception, courage over comfort, and a father's integrity over a mother's lies. The response to Marina's betrayal wasn't going to be what she expected. It would be what she deserved. Rachel gathered the last of the documentation, watching Val help Sophie pack her favorite books. Marina had dismissed Val's firefighting career as a liability. She'd never understood that the same traits that made him rush into burning buildings, courage, decisiveness, unwavering dedication to protecting others, were about to become her worst nightmare. The Forbes family's response to betrayal wouldn't be marked by dramatic confrontations or emotional breakdowns. It would be executed with the same precision Val brought to every rescue operation. Calculated, decisive, and unstoppable. Marina Forbes had started a fire in her own home. Now she would learn that some fires can't be controlled, and some burns leave permanent scars. Standing in the doorway of what had been their family home for 15 years, Val Forbes looked at his children. Not broken, but emboldened. Not victims, but warriors. Marina had taught them an unintended lesson about truth and consequences. It was time to show her what they'd learned. Rachel closed her briefcase, sealing away the documents that would end 2 marriages but save 3 children. Sometimes, she reflected, the most important rescues aren't from physical flames at all. They're from the invisible fires that burn in homes where truth has been sacrificed on the altar of betrayal. The night air carried a hint of autumn as they loaded the cars. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, under the cover of darkness, the Forbes family executed their response with the same precision that had marked Val's most crucial rescues. Marina had dismissed Val's firefighting career as a liability in her custody plans. She was about to learn that a father's love, like fire itself, can either warm a home or burn it to the ground. The choice had been hers. The consequences would be too. The pre-dawn darkness wrapped around the Forbes residence like a protective shroud. Val Forbes stood in the master bedroom, methodically removing his uniforms from the closet while Emma used her phone's flashlight to check for anything they might have missed. Through the window, they could see Rachel's BMW parked beside Harley's truck, both vehicles positioned for a quick departure. Security footage is archived, Emma reported, her debate Captain Efficiency evident even at 4 a.m. I've got everything from the past 2 years, including the cameras Mom didn't know about. The ones in the garden? Val asked, carefully folding his battalion chief dress uniform. And the doorbell camera she thought was broken. Emma's smile carried a hint of satisfaction. She never figured out Lucas fixed it months ago. Got some interesting footage of her and Uncle Michael's planning meetings in the driveway. Downstairs, Lucas hunched over his laptop one last time, fingers flying across the keyboard. Final backup completing now, he called softly. Everything's encrypted and stored on 3 separate clouds. Mom's tech guy won't be able to touch it. Sophie moved through the kitchen, her ballet-trained steps silent on the hardwood floors. She paused at the granite counter where her mother's wedding ring lay, abandoned like yesterday's coffee cup. With deliberate care, she placed it exactly in the center of the counter, positioning it where the morning light would hit the diamond Marina had once bragged about to her friends. Rachel entered from the garage, her attorney's briefcase replaced by a sleek laptop bag. Judge Harrison signed the emergency orders an hour ago. You're legally clear to leave with the children. She set a thick envelope on the kitchen table. Everything's documented, including Marina's pattern of parental alienation. Val descended the stairs, carrying a single duffel bag. 15 years of marriage, and all he needed fit into military-grade canvas. Sophie, princess, you're sure you packed everything you want to take? Sophie nodded, clutching her ballet shoes. Mom's stuff doesn't matter anymore. She glanced at the wedding ring on the counter. She left the important things behind a long time ago. Emma appeared with her debate team trophies carefully wrapped in her varsity jacket. The video backup is complete. I've got everything from the beach resort, plus all the security footage showing Mom's appointments with Uncle Michael. Speaking of appointments, Rachel added, her professional tone carrying an edge, I've forwarded evidence of Michael's prescription fraud to the medical board. They're particularly interested in how many anxiety medications he prescribed to Marina without proper documentation. Val moved to the kitchen, Marina's favorite wine glass catching his eye. The pretentious crystal one she'd used to toast with Michael at their last neighborhood barbecue. He placed the divorce papers inside it, the legal documents curling slightly against the expensive glass. His wedding band made a soft clink as he set it beside the papers. Dad! Lucas called from his spot at the dining room table. I've got one last thing to archive. The email Mom sent to her lawyer last week. The one about using your firefighting career against you in court. Add it to the evidence file, Rachel instructed. And make sure, triple encrypted, backed up to secure servers, with timestamp verification, Lucas finished. Mom's lawyer won't be able to claim it's fabricated. Val surveyed the home he'd spent 15 years building, noting the spaces where family photos had hung. Now carefully packed away, the truth they pretended to show exposed as carefully staged lies. Marina had always been obsessed with appearances, positioning everyone just so for the perfect family image. It's time, he said, checking his watch, 4:45 a.m. Marina wouldn't return from her wellness retreat for hours. Emma pulled a small notepad from her debate team bag, the kind she used for organizing her arguments. She wrote quickly, her handwriting precise. Our children saw everything. They chose to leave with me. Don't try to find us. Your lover's wife is our lawyer now. Straight to the point, Rachel observed. Marina always did hate it when people didn't waste time on pleasantries. They moved with quiet efficiency, loading the last of their chosen belongings into the waiting vehicles. As Rachel started her BMW, Emma suddenly held up her phone. Dad, there's one more thing you should see. She played a video, Marina and Michael by the resort pool, their voices clear in the morning air. Val's hero complex works in our favor, Marina was saying, her laugh sharp and cold. What judge would give primary custody to someone who runs into burning buildings for a living? Michael's response dripped with arrogance. Between his dangerous job and your documentation of his absences, we'll have those kids by Christmas. He'll be paying support while we enjoy his pension. They never knew I had your old GoPro at the beach, Emma said quietly, stopping the video. Mom was too busy pretending to be at yoga to notice me. Val watched his daughter's face, seeing not hurt but determination. Marina had raised these children to maintain appearances. Instead, she taught them to see through them. The sky began to lighten as their small convoy pulled away from the Forbes residence. In the rearview mirror, Val could see Sophie placing something on the dashboard, her mother's wedding ring, caught in the first rays of dawn. She'll try to spin this, Rachel warned from the passenger seat. She'll claim you kidnapped them, that you turned them against her. Let her try, Emma said from the back seat, her debate training evident in her tone. We got something she doesn't. What's that? Rachel asked. The truth, Lucas and Sophie answered in unison. 1 year later, the auditorium of the Central Valley Performing Arts Center hummed with anticipation. Sophie Forbes stood in the wings, her costume glittering under the stage lights as she prepared for her role as the lead in the Winter Ballet Showcase. Behind her, Lucas adjusted the lighting board he'd helped design, while Emma set up her camera to capture every moment. In the audience, Val Forbes sat beside Rachel Douglas, his division chief's insignia catching the light. The promotion had come 3 months after he'd left Marina, his dedication to both his children and his profession proving to be an asset rather than the liability Marina had tried to paint it as. "Mom's here," Emma texted from her position near the stage. Back row, trying not to be noticed, Val didn't turn to look. He didn't need to see Marina sitting alone, watching the success of the family she'd tried to destroy. The past year had brought enough satisfaction. The medical board's investigation had stripped Michael of his license, his prescription fraud scheme exposed beyond doubt. Marina's attempts at legal retaliation had crumbled against the weight of evidence her own children had gathered. Emma's debate team had won nationals with a powerful presentation on digital privacy rights and family justice. Lucas's co-parenting communication app, born from his experience documenting his mother's deceptions, had gained national attention from family court systems. And Sophie danced with the freedom of someone who no longer had to pretend. Rachel's hand found Val's as the music began. Their relationship had evolved naturally, built on respect, truth, and shared understanding of betrayal's cost. Marina had tried to use Val's profession against him in court, claiming his dedication to saving others made him an unfit father. She'd never understood that the same strength that carried him into burning buildings had carried his children to safety from her. The lights dimmed, and Sophie took center stage. In the back row, Marina Forbes watched her daughter dance, alone with the consequences of her choices. She played with fire, forgetting that her husband knew how to master it, control it, and when necessary, let it burn away what couldn't be saved. Val smiled as Sophie executed a perfect pirouette, remembering his words to the newest recruit class. "Sometimes, the bravest rescue is saving yourself and those you love from a fire you can't see." Marina had lit that fire, never expecting her carefully constructed world would be the one reduced to ashes. Now she sat alone, watching the family she'd tried to tear apart shine brighter without her. Their truth more powerful than her lies, their bond stronger for having been tested by betrayal's flames. The applause as Sophie completed her solo was deafening. Val caught Rachel's smile, not just as lawyer now, but a partner who understood that sometimes the most important cases weren't fought in courtrooms, but in the quiet moments of choosing truth over comfort, courage over convenience. Emma filmed every moment, her camera capturing what Marina had never understood. That real family bonds couldn't be broken by lies or distance or carefully crafted deceptions. Lucas's lighting design painted his sister in glory, his technical skills now used to illuminate rather than expose. As the curtain fell, Val Forbes stood to applaud his daughter's performance, the past year's choices vindicated in every graceful movement. Marina might be watching from the shadows, but her power to hurt them had burned away like morning fog before the sun. The Forbes family had emerged from betrayal's flames, not just survived, but transformed. Val's promotion to division chief meant more time with his children. Emma's debate victories carried the weight of hard-won wisdom. Lucas's app helped other families navigate the waters of broken trust. And Sophie danced with the strength of someone who knew her father would never miss another performance. They'd lost a mother but gained an unshakable truth. That love, like fire, could either warm a home or burn it down. Marina had chosen the flame's destruction. Val had chosen to forge something stronger from the ashes. As they gathered backstage after the performance, Rachel's legal briefcase now replaced by a bouquet for Sophie, Val looked at his children. Not victims but victors, not broken but strengthened. Marina may have chosen betrayal's path, but in doing so, she'd taught them all an invaluable lesson. Sometimes the most important fires aren't the ones that rage in burning buildings, but the ones that smolder in seemingly perfect homes, waiting for someone brave enough to face the flames and emerge stronger on the other side. The Forbes family had faced those flames, and like the phoenix their father had taught them about, They'd risen from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and finally, irrevocably free. Epilogue: The Reckoning. 5 years after the departure, the prestigious Westbrook Medical Board conference room fell silent as Michael Douglas stumbled through his 5th appeal hearing. His once immaculate appearance had crumbled along with his practice. His designer suits replaced by off-the-rack desperation, his confident swagger reduced to nervous fidgeting. Dr. Douglas, Board Chairman Dr. Sarah Chin spoke, her voice carrying the weight of 15 years overseeing medical ethics cases. Your request for license reinstatement is denied. Again, Michael's face reddened. This is ridiculous. A few prescription irregularities shouldn't end a 20-year career. I was trying to help. Help yourself to fraudulent prescriptions that enabled an affair, Dr. Chin cut in. The board has reviewed evidence of over 50 unauthorized anxiety medication prescriptions written to Marina Forbes, most of which were redistributed to other individuals. This isn't about a few irregularities, Dr. Douglas. This is about a systematic abuse of your medical license to facilitate adultery and drug distribution. In the back of the room, Rachel Douglas, now Rachel Forbes, sat with a small smile. She hadn't needed to attend the hearing, but some moments of justice deserved a witness. Furthermore, Dr. Chin continued, your attempts to use patient confidentiality laws to hide your relationship with Mrs. Forbes showed premeditation. The board finds your conduct remains unethical and your judgment fatally compromised. Michael's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. This was their last appeal, paid for by selling Michael's beach house, the same one where Emma's GoPro had captured the evidence that started his downfall. Your earliest possibility for reapplication will be in 7 years, Dr. Chin concluded. Though I suggest you consider a different profession. Medicine requires integrity, Dr. Douglas. You've demonstrated none. Across town, Marina Forbes sat alone in her one-bedroom apartment, reviewing her latest rejection letter from the Westbrook Country Club Selection Committee. 5 years of applications, 5 years of denials. Her carefully cultivated social status had evaporated along with her marriage. Her phone buzzed, Lucas's co-parenting app sending its weekly update. The interface he designed was elegant yet unyielding. Sophie's upcoming dance performances, Emma's latest debate tournament schedule, school events she was permitted to attend. Always from a distance, never as a participant. Marina clicked through photos she hadn't been invited to take. Sophie's acceptance to the prestigious National Ballet Academy's summer program, Emma's early admission to Stanford's pre-law program, Lucas receiving the Young Innovators Award for his expanding family communication platform. Her children's successes felt like personal indictments. Each achievement highlighted what she'd thrown away. Each celebration marked her absence rather than her presence. She'd tried fighting it at first, legal challenges, social manipulations, even attempts to paint Val as an unstable firefighter putting career before family. None of it worked. Rachel's legal expertise had turned Marina's every attack back on her. The evidence her own children had gathered proved too thorough, too damning. The court had seen through her attempts to use Val's profession against him. His promotion to division chief, an impeccable record destroying her claims of instability. Her social circle had dissolved just as quickly. The same country club wives who'd once laughed at her jokes now crossed streets to avoid her. The PDA position she'd wielded like a scepter was filled by someone else. Even her attempts to start fresh in neighboring communities failed. Lucas's app had become too popular among divorced parents, his mother's betrayal too well known in family court circles. Marina opened her mail, another bill from her latest failed legal challenge. She'd spent the last of her divorce settlement trying to force her way back into her children's lives. The court's response had been brutally clear. Her documented pattern of parental alienation and manipulation had poisoned any chance of reconciliation. The irony was suffocating. She tried to use Val's heroism against him, never understanding that their children had inherited his courage. Emma's debate skills, Lucas's technical brilliance, Sophie's artistic dedication. All of it came from the father she'd dismissed as a simple firefighter. The newly opened Forbes Fire and Rescue Training Center gleamed in the late afternoon sun. Val Forbes stood before the latest class of recruits, his division chief's uniform pressed to perfection. Behind him, a wall of screens displayed Lucas's emergency response coordination software. now standard issue across 3 states. Fire isn't just about flames, Val explained to the attentive recruits. Sometimes it's about seeing the smoke before anyone else knows there's danger. Sometimes the bravest rescue is saving yourself and those you love from a fire you can't see. The phrase had become something of a legend in firefighting circles after Emma's documentary on family court reform went viral. She'd used their story, carefully anonymized but powerfully told, to advocate for better evidence preservation in custody cases. Lucas's app had grown from that momentum, becoming an essential tool for family courts nationwide. Rachel entered the training center's observation room, still wearing her court attire from that morning's cases. Their marriage 2 years ago had raised eyebrows among those who didn't know them, but anyone who'd watched them rebuild from betrayal understood. They'd forged something stronger than the marriages they'd lost. A partnership built on truth, respect, and shared understanding of both justice and mercy. "How's the new class looking?" she asked, joining Val as the recruits filed out for their practical training. "Strong potential. They understand it's not just about running into burning buildings." He smiled, remembering how Marina had tried to use his profession to paint him as an unstable father. Now he trained firefighters to see beyond the obvious fires, to recognize the subtle dangers that could destroy families as surely as any flame. "Sophie called," Rachel said. "She's been offered a principal position with the National Ballet Company after graduation. Wants us all there for the announcement next week." Val nodded, pride evident in his stance. His youngest had transformed her pain into art, her performances carrying a grace born from choosing truth over comfortable lies. "Marina will probably try to attend. Let her," Rachel shrugged. "Sophie's strong enough now to handle her mother's presence." They all are. It was true. Emma had turned her debate skills toward law school, specializing in family court reform. Lucas's tech company had revolutionized co-parenting communication while partnering with domestic violence prevention organizations. Sophie's dancing had become a testament to surviving betrayal with grace. Marina's occasional attempts to rewrite history fell flat against their success. Her social media posts about missing her babies earned no sympathy from those who'd watched her try to destroy their father. Michael's efforts to rebuild his medical career in other states failed as Lucas's app spread across the country, their story serving as a case study in ethical family court technology. The Forbes family gathered that weekend at Val and Rachel's home, the same cabin Harley had offered as a safe house 5 years ago, now expanded into a warm family compound. Emma arrived from Stanford, her pre-law studies enhanced by first-hand understanding of family court dynamics. Lucas drove up in the Tesla his app success had bought, bringing previews of his latest software updates. Sophie danced in the backyard, practicing for her upcoming principal role while her siblings cheered. Val watched his children, remembering the night they'd fled their old life with only what mattered most. They'd carried their truth, their talents, and their father's determination to face fires others pretended not to see. Rachel joined him on the porch, case files temporarily forgotten. Marina filed for another custody review, she mentioned casually. Judge Harrison didn't even bother with a hearing. Sent back a one-line response. "The children have spoken through their choices." Val nodded, unsurprised. Marina had never understood that custody wasn't about winning possession of children. It was about proving worthy of their trust. She'd betrayed that trust systematically, leaving a paper trail her own children had documented with devastating thoroughness. Michael tried reaching out to Lucas, Rachel continued. Wanted to invest in the app, claimed he could help expand it to medical practices. Lucas had responded with the same code that had exposed their affair, a simple program that archived and timestamp verified every communication. Michael's attempts to leverage his former stepson's success died against that wall of digital accountability. The sun set over their gathering, painting the sky in colors Sophie would soon dance beneath on national stages. Emma's law school acceptance letters covered the fridge, while Lucas's tech magazines featuring his innovations filled the study. Photos of their new life decorated walls that had once displayed Marina's carefully staged fantasy of family perfection. Sometimes, Val told his advanced rescue training classes, the most dangerous fires are the ones burning in plain sight, while everyone pretends not to see the smoke. Marina and Michael had played with those flames, believing their cleverness would protect them from the heat. They dismissed the children as passive observers, never suspecting that Val's dedication to truth and rescue would find its strongest expression in the next generation. Now they lived with the consequences. Michael's medical license gathered dust while he worked retail jobs to pay off legal debts. Marina's social media showed an increasingly desperate attempt to maintain appearances. Designer clothes replaced by outlet brands, country club invitations replaced by community college courses on starting over. The Forbes family had rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal, stronger for having faced the flames together. Val's promotion recognized the same qualities that had saved his children. The ability to see danger others missed, the courage to face difficult truths, the strength to carry others to safety. Rachel's legal practice thrived, specializing in cases where technology and family law intersected. Her partnership with Lucas's app company set new standards for evidence preservation in custody cases. The woman who'd once been betrayed by a doctor now helped others document their own paths to justice. Emma's documentary on family court reform won awards, though she kept their names out of it. The story matters more than revenge, she explained. Other families need to know they can survive this too. Lucas's app expanded beyond co-parenting to include features for counselors, courts, and domestic violence prevention. The technology that had exposed his mother's betrayal now helped thousands of families navigate their own complicated truths. Sophie danced with companies that had once seemed unreachable dreams, her performances carrying messages of resilience that critics called hauntingly beautiful. She left her mother's wedding ring on display in her studio, a reminder that some bonds were chosen, not just born. As night fell over their family gathering, Val watched his children laugh together on the back porch. Marina had tried to use his profession against him, claiming a firefighter couldn't be a suitable single parent. She'd never understood that running into burning buildings hadn't just taught him about saving others. It had taught him about seeing through smoke, about carrying precious things to safety, about rebuilding from ashes. The Forbes family had faced betrayal's flames and emerged tempered rather than destroyed. Their stories circulated in family courts, firefighter training programs, and counseling sessions, not as a tragedy, but as proof that truth, like fire, could either destroy or refine. Marina and Michael had chosen destruction, counting on appearances to hide their smoke. They dismissed Val as a simple firefighter, his children as simple pawns, never suspecting that the same courage that ran toward danger would run straight through their carefully constructed lives. Now they lived in the ashes of their choices, while the family they tried to burn thrived in the clear air of truth. It was a lesson Val shared with every new recruit, every frightened parent, every child facing difficult choices. Sometimes the most important fires aren't the ones that make headlines or draw crowds. Sometimes they're the quiet blazes burning in perfect-looking homes, waiting for someone brave enough to name the smoke, face the flames, and carry others to safety. The Forbes family had faced those flames, and in doing so, they'd proven that the deepest burns often leave the strongest survivors. If you're brave enough to walk through fire, carrying nothing but your truth,